Hey you, welcome back to Amusement ASMR, where thrill meets chill. Today, as you can see, we are headed back to Disneyland parks for that celebrated spooky season, Halloween time. Now, I know that in my last video, I talked about making more introvert-oriented content. There may be some tips related to that today, but 'tis the Halloween season right now, and I'm sure you're just dying to know what that entails. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Rest assured, I am working on a full introvert's guide to theme parks video for release in the near future, but I gotta make the seasonal content while it is the season, right? So let's go to Disneyland. I recently got my butt back to these parks to see what's changed in decor, rides, munchies, and merch. So here are my new seasonal park maps for Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, DCA. I love collecting these. Maybe one day I'll do a video or videos to share my whole collection. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see that, actually. Now, before we get into it, I do want to mention that I'm not a huge fan of Halloween, the holiday, and what that tends to yield in most theme parks, namely the excess of scary stuff that's intended to terrify you. Haunted houses, mazes, scare actors jumping out at you, trying to make you jump and scream. Not a fan. My personal opinion is that if you've experienced real, actual trauma in your life, it's not enjoyable to relive that kind of experience, even in an albeit safer simulated environment, unless it's intended for therapeutic purposes and conducted by a licensed mental health care professional. And then I'm all for it. But that's not usually the case at theme parks and Halloween events. I also recognize that I'm in the minority here. Most people love this scary Halloween stuff. And I do still like some spooky stuff, just the tamer stuff that's meant to entertain more than terrify. Which is precisely why I don't mind Halloween time at Disneyland nearly as much as at the other parks, because it's Halloween in silly, sweet, happy Disney style. Spooky light, and I'm here for it. I also do love the fall season, autumn, if you will, the changing of seasons and leaves, as much as we get that in California, which isn't much, but is so lovely in other states and parts of the world. And that crisper air and misty rainfall that starts to turn all that sad brown dry grass we have in SoCal back to happy green. And that light sweater weather, or in California, the no more shorts and tank top weather. I love wrapping up in cozy layers, and California summers don't really allow for that. So happy autumn and Disneyland Halloween season. Now let's actually get into the Disneyland park maps and see what these parks have in store for this hallowed Halloween time. We do have a lot to cover today, so we're going to try and get through this relatively quickly. We'll start in Disneyland and we'll hop back and forth as needed. So let's open this one up, take a look at what we've got going. Now, as soon as you enter the parks, the first thing you really notice, of course, is all the adorable Halloween decor. I mean, look at all of these orange banners in Disneyland, and the garlands, and colorful displays, and lights, and giant pumpkins of Mickey and friends, both at the exterior on the Esplanade and right here in Main Street as soon as you enter, and all the other cleverly carved pumpkins all along Main Street. Oh, so many pumpkins. Some of them are so clever and hilarious. Look, the ones at the Mad Hatter are all wearing hats. I love it. Now, over in DCA, I know we're switching very quickly, but let's see what kind of decor we have in store over there. As you can probably tell from the map, this park has more of a purple theme going on. So the decor in DCA is a bit of a darker and more spooky color scheme, with purples and blacks instead of orange and bright colors in Disneyland. So as you enter, you can see down Buena Vista Street and in Carthay Circle and beyond, you've got bats all over the buildings, especially the iconic Carthay Circle Tower, which actually also lights up with these amazing projections at night too. It's super fun. Speaking of scary, there is a particularly scary thing right here in Carthay Circle as well, the Headless Horseman statue, which looks very menacing both at daytime and nighttime, and comes with some very spooky sounds too. So that is a little unnerving to look at. And this whole Carthay Circle and Buena Vista Street is just chock full of Halloween decor that really comes to life with all these spooky purple lights at nighttime. It's really so immersive. It's amazing. But possibly the best area in DCA for Halloween decor is back this way in Cars Land for the Radiator Screams Halloween transformation. Every inch of this land has been spookified, from the names of the rides to the now not so cozy cones. I guess more like the creepy cone motel, to the street lights and all the signs around the land. I mean, all the signs. So many seasonal sign changes. And it's all so cleverly done in automotive-inspired theming. And it's especially cool at night, so do not miss out on visiting this land after sundown. I promise you will not regret it. It's so incredible. There are little bits of Halloween decor around the rest of this park and Disneyland, like over here in Paradise Gardens Park. There's a whole area for the Plaza de la Familia, which is themed to Coco, which is really lovely. And in Disneyland, there's also some great decor over in Frontierland. There's the whole area over here that's themed to Coco as well, and Dia de los Muertos in general. And also the Ray Bradbury tree is right here, which is really beautiful, and especially beautiful at night. So lots of fun in this park as well. And then there's also so much Halloween merchandise in both parks. In DCA, you'll find most of that along Hollywood Boulevard over here. I mean, just look at all of these adorable outfits and accessories, like these Loungefly backpacks and Mickey ears and socks and hats. They have designs for different villains like Maleficent and Oogie Boogie and the Sanderson sisters, and of course this year's main design with Mickey's pumpkin patch. And then over in Disneyland, again, you can find tons of Halloween merch all along Main Street, as well as in other shops around the park, like the Adventureland Bazaar in Adventureland, obviously, right here, which has the same fun bags and shirts and ears, plus a whole line of spooky Stitch merch. Everything you could ever want if you are a Stitch lover like me. Okay, now let's talk about characters, because during the Halloween season, all of your favorite Disney characters and some special ones you don't normally see come out in their best spooky wear, and it is adorable. You can look up where and when your favorite characters will be out meeting and greeting around the park in the Disneyland app. You just click on the map icon on the bottom of the screen, and then in the drop down at the top, select characters, and it will take you to a map of all the character meet and greet spots around the park. Then you can select each one to see a list of the characters that are meeting in that area, and then click on each one of those character names to see what times they will be out meeting and greeting in that spot. It's a really fantastic feature. I highly recommend it. So I use the app in Disneyland to figure out when a particularly special and rare character would be meeting and greeting in New Orleans Square, and that was Jack Skellington from The Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh, I love that movie. I love this character. They sometimes also have Sally meeting and greeting with him. She wasn't here that day, unfortunately, because I do love Sally too. Maybe even more than Jack. But seeing Jack was still really amazing. I also saw a lot of roaming characters with spooky vibes around the park, like the Evil Queen. The roaming characters are definitely one of the special things about Disneyland in particular. One of the reasons I really love Disneyland, especially. And then over here at the front of the park in Main Street area, I also found Goofy and Clarabelle in their Halloween outfits too. So sweet. Now Goofy was also meeting and greeting folks over in DCA along Buena Vista Street, and this time in a different Halloween outfit, so he's got quite a collection in his closet. And Donald Duck was here too, in his very devilish ensemble. Nice cape. And here's Mickey in his Halloween best over by the Carthay Circle fountain. Just really nice. Right where that Mickey hand is pointing. But if you miss any characters, fear not, because you can catch them all and then some back over in Disneyland at the Mickey and Friends Halloween Cavalcade Parade. There's one at 1:45 p.m. and 2:45 p.m. And FYI, that first one steps off from the Small World end and comes this way down this dotted line. And the second cavalcade parade steps off from the Main Street side here and goes back this direction, just so that you can plan it out and make sure you have the optimal spot for the best view possible. And they really have everyone here in this cavalcade. It's so amazing. You start with Goofy and Clarabelle, who we saw earlier, on the Main Street fire engine. Look at them drive by, very cute. And then comes a float packed with all the other classic characters. You've got Donald and Daisy and Pluto, Mickey and Minnie and Chip and Dale, all in their Halloween splendor. Next is a whole entourage of heroes and heroines on foot. Aladdin, Jasmine, Moana, Merida, and Pocahontas. Oh, some of these characters are a bit rare to get in cavalcades and parades, so that's really nice. And then another Main Street vehicle, the omnibus, is packed with even more Disney characters. You've got Peter Pan and Alice and Pinocchio and Geppetto and princesses Ariel and Cinderella, Tiana, Aurora or Sleeping Beauty, and Snow White. Oh, so many princesses, all packed into one car. And then we get into the anti-heroes, the classic Disney villains, which no Halloween cavalcade would be complete without. So we've got the wicked stepmother, Lady Tremaine, with Anastasia and Rosella, of course, and the evil queen, who we did see earlier. Hello again. And Maleficent, who is one of my favorites, and the Queen of Hearts, who's one of my other favorites, and then Gaston and Captain Hook, who apparently thinks he's more impressive than Gaston. My, what a guy, that Hook. Oh, and then, bringing up the rear, appropriately in her own car, is Cruella de Vil. Now, I know it's not quite her 1974 Panther de Vil coupe, but girl takes what she can get. And the Main Street Jitney is not too shabby a second choice. So, that was truly a spectacular, spooky, sensational Halloween cavalcade with all our favorite characters, both good and bad, or just misunderstood. Now, speaking of characters, another thing Disneyland does very well for Halloween time is the shows. In Disneyland Park, during the day, we get the Mickey and Friends Halloween Cavalcade that we just went through. And then at night, it's time for the Halloween Screams nighttime show with projections and, on select nights, fireworks. But always with the amazing Zero flying over the castle. Except when the wind blows or even lightly breathes. But it's still spectacular on any night, in any version, and any viewpoint. I have seen this show projected onto the castle facade, onto the Main Street buildings, and on the Small World facade. And it is devilishly good every single time. I do love this show because, again, it's spooky light Halloween, so it's really not that scary. It's just very fun. Now, those are really the main shows for Halloween time in Disneyland. And in DCA, in terms of shows, we have the adorable, kid-friendly Mickey's Trick and Treat show in the Disneyland Theater on Hollywood Boulevard, which is number 2 right here. And it's even written out as Mickey's Trick and Treat show on this map to help you find that right here, because this is the Halloween themed park map. And it is a really cute show. It's basically the Disney Junior Dance Party in Halloween style, hosted by Mickey and Minnie in their Halloween outfits. Very, very cute. And then, way over here in Paradise Gardens Park, in the Plaza de la Familia that we talked about earlier, you can see the Musical World of Coco show a few times throughout the day as well, which is very fun and festive and interactive and colorful. Okay, now it's time to talk rides. I know, you've been waiting for this, because there is one thing in particular that makes this season the greatest thing in any theme park, in my opinion. I know that goes counter to my whole point about not liking Halloween in theme parks, but this is the exception, and that is the Haunted Mansion Holiday Overlay, which is right over here, number 15. And see, it's even written here as Haunted Mansion Holiday. This is, in my opinion, not only the best ride overlay ever, but also just the best ride ever. I mean, Haunted Mansion is already amazing. And then add the Nightmare Before Christmas, which, by the way, is a perfect example of what I mean by spooky for entertainment's sake. And it just doesn't get any better than this. Now, of course, it's not just a Halloween time thing. This overlay runs through the Christmas holiday season too, which is 100% a season I absolutely adore in theme parks and in general. So that just makes this ride overlay even better. Now, right now, Haunted Mansion Holiday is running with a virtual queue only, while the outdoor queue expansion is still being finished. So, no standby or lightning lanes. That means you only have 2 chances to get a slot to ride this, either at 7 a.m. from anywhere, as long as you have a ticket and park reservation for that day, of course, or at 12 p.m. if you've scanned into the park. And if you get a slot at 7 a.m., you cannot get another one at 12 p.m., even if you've already been called back and gotten to ride it by then. So I had to go visit the park multiple days on my recent visit in order to ride this more than once. The perk of being an annual pass holder, because you can only ride it once a day maximum. It also means that I got different experiences with signing up for the virtual queue at different times. So now I can share that insight with you. But first, an important caveat. The parks were less crowded on my visit than they likely are now, as it does get busier closer to actual Halloween. But I did have a surprisingly less difficult time getting a virtual queue spot than I anticipated. So maybe you'll have the same luck. Just, take it with a grain of salt. Now, the first day that I went to the parks, I joined the virtual queue right at 7 a.m. on the dot. And I got group number 32, which was summoned back to ride the ride at 9:24 a.m. So pretty early. Again, they give you an hour-long window to get back within. So I had until 10:24 a.m. But still pretty early in the day, and earlier than I usually like, because I usually like to spend that first couple hours of the park day rope dropping other rides. So the second day, I did things differently. I didn't actually get to the park until late afternoon, so I scanned in at 4:15 p.m., at which point I figured the second virtual queue window that starts at 12 p.m. would probably be all gone by then. But amazingly, there were still some slots left. Now, I got group number 298 that day, which was a backup group, meaning it's only called if there's enough capacity and they can get to all of the groups. But I did go check with the very nice cast members posted over by Haunted Mansion Holiday later in the evening, and they said it did look like they were going to get to all of the backup groups. And I was indeed called back at 10:56 p.m., so quite late. But then something even more amazing happened. After I got off that ride, it was empty enough and late enough in the park day that they had just opened it up to anyone who wanted to ride. No virtual queue needed at that point. So I walked right back in and rode it again. 2 times in a row. Best night ever. And then on my third day, yes, that's right, I went 3 days, almost in a row. I might have a problem. I decided that day to try joining the 7 a.m. window a little bit later to see if I could get a later return time. So I joined at 7:45 a.m. and I got group number 64, which was called back at 11:10 a.m. until 12:10 p.m. So I hope that gives you some ideas for what to aim for on your own visit, though again, I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be quite as easy later in October, so maybe still be ready at 7 a.m. on the dot to make sure that you get a slot. Oh, guess I like to rhyme a lot. Okay, now that's the ride overlay for the Halloween season in Disneyland. And over in DCA, the one main ride overlay over here for the Halloween season happens back here in Avengers Campus at the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. Normally, that's Mission Breakout, here, number 8, but as you can see in the fine print here, that transforms into Monsters After Dark, starting at 3 p.m. each day. Now, they typically shut down the ride at 2 p.m. to flip it over and then reopen about 3 p.m., but they often reopen it sooner than that, and it's a good idea to check early to see if they had. I did this on a day when the Oogie Boogie Bash party was happening, which means that the park was going to start to get busy around 4 p.m. when party guests are allowed into the park pre-event. So I wanted to make sure to ride this before then. But also, conveniently, DCA tends to be much less crowded on Oogie Boogie Bash days. So when I checked this ride at about 2:50 p.m., it was only a 20-minute wait, which is bonkers for this ride. It's very popular. Now, I should also cover some other notable ride news that's relevant right now. There have been some recent refurbishments, and some of those are now completed, though sadly not all of them. So let's pop back over to Disneyland Park, because the Disneyland Railroad, every single station of it, in fact, and Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, which is number 7 right here, are sadly still closed, with no reopening date announced yet. Likely sometime next year, hopefully before the 70th anniversary celebration kicks off. But on a happier note, we now have Space Mountain, number 50 right here, and number 16, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, over here, that are now open again, all shiny and updated. So you can go ride that spaceship and those vehicles to your heart's content. Speaking of this area, we're also so close to the grand opening of Tiana's Bayou Adventure on November 15th, when the Christmas holiday season also kicks off. And by then, we should also get a retheme of the Hungry Bear restaurant, which is right here, which will be renamed the Hungry Bear Barbecue Jamboree. You can see that they've already started to make some of those changes on the restaurant exterior. And we'll also get the rest of the newly named Bayou Country instead of Critter Country. All of that will be opened by the start of the Christmas holiday season on November 15th. That holiday season also means the reopening of It's a Small World, number 36, right here, which is also closed right now for its holiday overlay install, just the Christmas holiday overlay. And it is a fantastic holiday ride overlay. So there is a lot going on in the parks right now, and a lot to look forward to very soon, especially since I do very much love this park during the Christmas holidays. I really think it's the park's most magical time of the year. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're still in the Halloween season, so let's stay focused on that. Now, this season may not have as many ride overlays and updates, but it more than makes up for that in seasonal treats. As always, the food and drink offerings here are top quality, just perfection. I'm not a huge foodie normally, and even I eagerly look forward to the food at Disneyland. It's truly on another level, especially for theme park food, but just for food in general. I mean, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So, during this park visit, I got to try a few of the special seasonal treats. Starting in Disneyland, let's talk about breakfast. Now, at home, I don't usually eat breakfast, or at least I don't eat at normal breakfast time. But in Disneyland, like I said, the food is amazing, and the breakfast food is no exception. And some of their best breakfast items are only available until 10:30 or 11 a.m., like my go-to favorites, the Ronto morning wrap over in Galaxy's Edge, and the breakfast chimichanga in Frontierland. But this time, I got some new seasonal breakfast eats. So first, I went into Fantasyland to the Red Rose Tavern right here, DD, to get their new maple French toast sandwich. And all in all, this was a very tasty breakfast sandwich. The French toast bread was pretty sweet, but it was offset very nicely by the bacon and egg and cheese, that savory trio. I also just love the ambiance in here, so that makes this treat even more enjoyable. Then, on the next day, I decided to try a different breakfast over here at the Little Red Wagon on Main Street, which is letter F right here, for their blueberry corn dog. And oh my God, was this so good. It's the same great classic hand-dipped corn dog that they're known for, crunchy and salty and delicious, with sweet, warm blueberry compote and bacon powdered sugar on top. It was the perfect combination of savory and sweet, and the best way to start the day, or have any time of the day, because this one is wonderfully available all day long. And it honestly might have been my favorite of all the seasonal eats. Maybe. It's really too close to call. There were too many winners, but this was a strong contender. Now for lunch/dinner eats, I went across Main Street to stop by the Jolly Holiday Bakery Cafe, which is letter H right here, and always has some amazing seasonal items. Now, any time of the year, they are known for their grilled cheese and soup combo, which is fantastic. So this time, I got the seasonal version of that, the bulgogi toasted sandwich with corn cheese soup. Obviously, the bulgogi is bulgogi, and it was, oh, delicious. A touch dry, but the soup helped with that, and it wasn't actually very spicy either, just a little kick in the soup. So if you're averse to spice, don't let this scare you off. And overall, it was just an excellent combo, like they always do. Now, Jolly Holiday is also known for their macaroons and macarons, which are different, so don't get them confused. So I also had to get the Jack-o'-lantern Mickey pumpkin macaron, which was larger than I was expecting. It also had super sweet filling, sort of a combination of caramel and cake batter flavors. It does get better when you reach the cinnamon cream in the center, but it was still too sweet for me, honestly. I definitely prefer their other macarons, like the raspberry rose macaron, which is incredible and not too sweet or artificially flavored. One thing they do all have in common, though, is how fragile they are. This one held together okay in my hand, but it completely crumbled with the first bite. Now, for a midday snack, I made my way over to Fantasyland to Edelweiss Snacks, which is FF here, for the new garlic cheesy brat, which is also truly amazing. This is basically one of my favorite items, the garlic cheesy bread, then stuffed with a crispy, salty brat. I was in heaven. Just, oh, perfect. Nice crunch to that brat, and so salty and savory and mixed with that garlicky, cheesy, gooiness. Oh, honestly, I think it was as good as the Bengal barbecue hack that's become very popular. Maybe even better. So this is a new favorite for sure as well. And then for dessert, where else should one go but the mint julep bar, of course, which is P right here behind Tiana's Palace, because this time of year they have the seasonal tangy apple Mickey beignets. Now, I love the original Mickey beignets so much, and the seasonal flavors aren't always as good, but these were actually very tasty. I could taste the tanginess of that sour apple flavor. It was light, but it was there and not too heavy, which was perfect. And then all of that, along with all the usual warm, soft, powdery perfection of Mickey beignets. So it was an excellent dessert. Great seasonal treat. Highly recommend. Or if you want something more otherworldly, I also popped back here to Galaxy's Edge to Katsaka's kettle, which is S over here for the seasonal Yogan seed oi oi puff, or Jogan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Tell me in the comments if I've butchered that. Now, they don't celebrate Halloween on Batu because obviously it's a different world, but this is still a seasonal treat in the world of Star Wars, and it was still excellent. It had a very interesting appearance, so they did an excellent job on the look of it, and it also had a very nice, good, soft texture. There was a little chocolate circle on the bottom that was a fun surprise, and there wasn't a ton of cream filling inside until you got a bit further down, but it was overall a very nice, tasty puff, so I did enjoy that very thoroughly. Now, I also tried a few of the seasonal treats over in DCA. So let's take a look at what they have over there. Now, firstly, there are a few snack carts around the park, such as one in the Plaza de la Familia and one over in Pixar Pier, where they have a garlic cream cheese bread that is to die for. It was served all warm and so gooey, and there was plenty of cream cheese crammed into there. It was so simple and yet so delicious. So another favorite of these seasonal treats. Like I said, there are a lot of winners. And then for dessert in DCA, I popped over to San Francisco Square to Aunt Cass Cafe, which is T right here, for the taro bread pudding. And oh my ghouls, this was also just heavenly. Or should I say the other place, because this is Halloween. It was also served super warm and gooey, and I melted with it. But there was also a nice crunch on the outside, so it wasn't too mushy like some bread puddings can be. And it wasn't too sweet either. The taro filling gave it a nice savory edge. So all in all, the perfect bread pudding, I have to say. Now, what would a trip to the Disneyland parks be without a churro? So I went back into Pixar Pier to Senior Buzz Churros, which is HH here, for the poison apple churro, which is covered in green cinnamon sugar with Granny Smith apple icing. The churro is your basic sugar flavor, but the icing, it is a nice sour Jolly Rancher type flavor in a super fun, super bright red color that kind of dyes your fingers and possibly your mouth, so be warned. And it is definitely a sweet treat, but it does have that hint of sour that really helps balance it out. And then, of course, what would a trip to DCA be without a little booze? There are many yummy drink options in this park for the Halloween season, but I chose to go over to Cars Land, to the Cozy Cone Motel, which is letter O here, or as I've coined it, the Creepy Cone Motel, for the Poison Green Apple Hard Seltzer. And this really hit the spot. It was very light and refreshing, definitely sweet, but also tart and sour, so really a perfect balance. Kinda like a sour Jolly Rancher. Again, I know I'm using that comparison a lot, but it really does fit here too. And a very fun green color. So it really was the perfect way to wash down all this devilishly delicious food on my Halloween visit to the Disneyland parks. Okay, well, that just about wraps up my ghoulish good times at the Disneyland and Disney California Adventure parks for this Halloween seasonal visit. Thank you so much for joining me on these treacherous adventures. I do hope that they made your day a little bit happier and spookier and wicked good, or at least more amusing. Now, go on and watch another video to get even more thrilling and chilling tingles and help me feed that tricksy little YouTube algorithm. You can click on this one right here, the Future Me has put up for you. Thanks, Future Me. And thank you again for watching. I will see you next time.